Hello students, welcome to the lecture on organizational structure, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand concept of organizational structure, discuss the organizational design and structure, explain the functional organizational structure, describe the principles of organizational structure, explain theories of organizational, understand departmentation, explain the span of management, discuss the delegation of authority. Let's start with organizational structure. Organizational structure is the system of arrangement, the pattern or network of relation between the various positions and their holders. How that coordination is achieved, by whom, and with what dictates what the organization will look like. The structure of every organization depends on how the activities are ordered. Concept of organizational structure. Organizing refers to the way in which the work of a group is arranged and distributed among members to efficiently achieve the objectives of an organization. The process of organizing consists of certain steps, which are determining the activities to be performed, identification of the major functions to which these activities relate, grouping and subdividing an activities within each department on the basis of similarity or relatedness, establishing relationship among different individuals and departments, or responsibility is the obligation of a subordinate to perform the assigned duties. Authority includes the right to decide, issue orders and take action in case orders are not carried out. Accountability means answerability. Each person has to report to his superior how the work has been done and how authority has been used. Organizational structure. Structure refers to the arrangement of parts and interrelationship among activities and people. The structure of an organization mainly involves the following: number of departments, section and position in which an organization has been divided, the levels of management, the relationship among different parts and levels. You must have observed that in any organization there are basically three types of authority relationships, namely line, staff and functional. Line authority is the authority to issue orders and to see that these orders are carried out. Staff officers are appointed to help line managers. Their main job is to give advice. Functional authority is the authority of a manager over a person who is not his immediate subordinate. The main reason of using functional authority is to take advantage of the special knowledge and skill of functional specialists. Principle of organization are made with an objective to guide the managers in their work. The principles of management include unity of command and direction. Unity of command means that each employee should report to only one supervisor. Unity of direction means that all tasks and activities should be directed toward the same mission and goals. Chain of command. Chain of command states that a clear, unbroken chain of command should link every employee with someone at a higher level or the way to the top of the organization. Span of control. Span of control refers to the number of subordinates reporting to a manager. Division of work. With the division of work, employees have specialized jobs. Standardization. Standardization is the process of developing uniform practices that employees are to follow doing their jobs. The purpose is to develop a certain level of conformity. Coordination. Coordination means that all departments, sections should work together to accomplish the strategic, tactical and operational goals of the organization. Coordination entails integrating all organizational tasks and resources to meet the organization's goals. Responsibility, authority, and accountability. Responsibility is the obligation to achieve goals by performing required activities. Authority is the right to make decisions, issue orders, and use resources. Accountability is the evaluation of how well individuals meet their responsibility. Managers can delegate responsibility and authority, but never their accountability. Delegation. Delegation is the process of assigning responsibility and authority for attaining goals. Responsibility and authority are delegated down the chain of command. Downsizing and delayering. Downsizing is a managerial activity aimed at reducing the size of an organization's workforce. Delayering is the process of reducing the number of layers in the vertical management hierarchy. Line and staff relationships. Line authority refers to the scalar chain or to the superior subordinate linkages that extend throughout the hierarchy. Line employees are responsible for achieving the basic or strategic objectives of the organization, while staff plays a supporting role to line employees and provides services. The relationship between line and staff is crucial in organizational structure, design, and efficiency. It is also an important aid to information processing and coordination. Departmentalization. Departmentalization is a process of horizontal clustering of different types of functions and activities on any one level of the hierarchy. It is conventionally based on purpose, product, process, function, personal things, and place. Division of labor. Subdivision of work into separate jobs assigned to different people. Potentially increases work efficiency. Necessary as company grows and work becomes more complex. Span of control. Number people directly reporting to the next level assumes coordination through direct supervision. Wider span of control possible when used with other coordinating method. Subordinates tasks are similar. Tasks are routine. Flatter structures require wider span if same number of the people in the firm. Principles of organizational structure. Traditional organization theories developed certain principles of organization as guide to thinking and organizing. These principles are intended for universal application to all enterprises and cooperative efforts in different fields. Some of the widely adopted principles are division of labor or specialization. The classicist views specialization as the basic of efficiency. A group of individuals can secure better results by having division of work. F.W. Taylor applied this principle at the operation level and displayed how efficiency could be increased by breaking down jobs into single repetitive tasks performed on specialized tools. Consideration of objectives. Since objectives have a direct bearing upon the organization structure, one should take due cognizance of time and develop and design a structure so as to facilitate accomplishment of the objectives. The assumption underlying this principle is that the work norms and means adopted by the organization are acceptable to the individuals and groups. However, in reality, there is often a divergence between individual needs and organizational goals. The scalar principle holds that organization consists of two or more levels of authority. The basic idea of this scale is that of grading or distributing a characteristic over a series of demarcated units. The principle of departmentation. Departmentation requires analyzing everything that has to be done and determining the grouping in which it can be placed without violating the principle of homogeneity. It is desirable because individuals vary considerably in the range of activities which their abilities will permit them to perform effectively. The principle of unity of command. A business organization must have a single head in whom all authority and responsibility is concentrated. But this has to be blended with the efforts of the organized people below. The single leader is the ultimate source of authority by which conflicts are minimized. The principle of span of control. The idea of span of control is related to the horizontal dimension of an organizational structure. Span of control, also referred to as the span of supervision or span of management, refers to the number of subordinates reporting directly to the executive. The principle holds that larger the number of subordinates reporting directly to the executive, the more difficult it tends to be for him to supervise and coordinate them effectively. The principle of flexibility. Organization is created to accomplish certain goals. Both the environment and the individuals comprising the organization are constantly in flux. To cope with these changes and yet reach its objectives, an organization must be designed with sufficient amount of flexibility. The principle of balance. This principle implies that each area and function of an enterprise should operate with equal effectiveness in making its allotted contribution to the total purpose. The idea of balance applies to organizational structures as well as to functions and processes. The exception principle. The next very useful fundamental of organization structure is the exception principle. This principle implies that only problems involving unusual matters should be referred upward and decided by higher level executives, and that routine problems should be passed on to lower levels and resolved there itself. Principle of decentralization. This principle is of great significance in the organization, especially to large enterprises. Principle of simplicity. Simplicity is an appealing objective because it implies economy of efforts. This principle in brief states it is desirable to consider simplicity of structure in developing an organization, aiming for as clear-cut structure as well as permit doing the necessary work efficiently. Combination of line and staff functions. Organization structures are usually of line, staff and functional types. It is argued that line and staff function should not be combined in one individual or department where separation of the function is possible. The reason is that these are basic authority relations, combination of which will result in confusion. Functional organization structure. F.W. Taylor, founder of scientific management, conceived the functional organization structure. According to him, it is unscientific to overload a foreman with the entire responsibility of running a department. He introduced a system of functional foremanship in his organization. In his functional foremanship, there will be 8 specialists, foremen, who will be required to guide, direct and control the work. Workers at the plan level will have to follow the instruction of all these 8 specialists called bosses. In the functional organization suggested by F.W. Taylor, the job of management is divided according to specialization. In the functional organization structure, there will be separation of planning of work and execution of the plan prepared. The basic of division is a function, and naturally the organization structure created will be called functional organization. In the functional foremanship, there will be 8 specialists, functional heads called bosses. Out of 8 bosses, 4 bosses will be at the planning level and the remaining 4 will be at the slop floor level. Theories of organization. The different organization theories may be broadly classified as the classical theory. The classical approach to organization analysis is based on the management process school of thought. It is also referred to as a traditional approach. Max Weber was among the first to offer a systematic approach to the problems of organization design. Others who have contributed to the classical theory are Henry Fayol, Frederick Taylor, Mooney and Raleigh, Gulick and Urwick. Classical theory lays emphasis on principles and deals with the structural framework in which group activities are assigned to people, authority relation established, individual efforts properly coordinated, and responsibilities fixed. The structure is created to help accomplish enterprise goals more effectively. According to classicists, coordination constitutes the essence of organization. In other words, it is the orderly arrangement of groups' efforts, coordination, which can provide the necessary unity of action in the pursuit of common purpose. The foundation of classical theory rests on what are known as the four pillars of formal organization. Pillars of the classical theory: division of labor, scalar and functional processes, the structure of an organization, the span of control, the neoclassical theory. The neoclassical theory has been associated in the past with the human relation approach. It is now broadly identified with those who recognize and attempt to compensate for the deficiencies of the classical theory. Maslow emphasized the hierarchy of needs as basic, social and ego needs. Once basic and social needs are largely satisfied, ego needs provide the most important source of motivation. Chester I. Bernard, the most powerful exponent of the social system concept of organization, considered informal organization as joint personal activity without conscious joint purpose. The human relations approach has made valuable contribution to the theory of organization. But like classicists, doctrines of the behavioralist also suffer from incompleteness and lack of integration among the different facts of human behavior. Thus, the important contribution of the human relations theory of organization has been to warn the classicists not to treat organizational participants as machines but accord due respect to the values and needs of the people. Departmentation. Departmentation is concerned with grouping the various activities into separate administrative units. It implies grouping activities and employees into departments. The process of grouping activities into units with a view to ensuring effective management. The process of departmentation takes place at all levels in the organization. It is a common process of grouping tasks into individual jobs, grouping jobs into administrative units and grouping units into larger units to establish the departments is carried on in the whole process of the organization. The process of departmentation may be divided into following three stages. Primary departmentation, that is, initial breakup of functions into basic activities. Intermediate departmentation, that is, creating departments in the middle levels of the organization. Ultimate departmentation, that is, dividing activities into separate units at the lower levels. Span of management. The term span of management is often referred to as span of control, span of supervision, span of responsibility or span of authority. But the term span of management should be preferably be used since span is one of management and not merely of control, which is just important function of management. Delegation of authority. Delegation, according to L.A. Allen, is a process a manager follows in dividing the work assigned to him so that he performs that part which only he, because of his unique organizational placement, can perform effectively, and so that he can get others to help him with what remains. Delegation is an administrative process of getting things done by others by giving them responsibility. Delegation of authority entails division of workload and sharing responsibility. The process of delegation involves the following steps. Allocation of duties. Before authority can be delegated, the duties over which the authority relates must be allocated to subordinate. Delegation of authority. The essence of the delegation process is empowering another person to act for the manager. This is a passing of formal rights to act on behalf of another. assignment of responsibility. When authority is delegated, one must assign responsibility. That is, when one is given rights, one must also be assigned a corresponding obligation to perform. Creation of accountability. To complete the delegation process, the manager must create accountability, that is, subordinates must be held answerable for the discharge of the duties assigned and the judicious use of authority delegated. Summary. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. The organizational structure, the political power and the environment. We suggest adding a complementary fifth level pertaining to the organizational culture. Organizing refers to the way in which the work of a group is arranged and distributed among members to efficiently achieve the objectives of an organization. Delegation is a process of assigning responsibility and authority for attaining goals. Responsibility and authority are delegated down the chain of command. The organization design must support our strategy. If organization intends to be innovative, then a hierarchical structure will not work. An organization is categorized by the presence of a number of levels and departments.